Good morning. Our chalice lighting is adapted from Opening Words for Summer Solstice by B. Leslie Coons. We come together this morning as celebrants, as seekers and companions. We enter into this, the longest day, joyfully, allowing ourselves the beauty of this time together in which we may rest our cares and sorrows and allow our hearts and spirits to be uplifted. Though we each come here from our own particular lives, we join together to light this one chalice beneath this one sun, as we have so many days and years before now.
Ancient sun, eternally young, giver of life and source of energy, in coal and oil, in plant and wind and tide, in spiritual light and human embrace, you kindle the heavens, you shine in us. For we are sons with hearts afire, we light the world as you light the sky, and find clouds within whose shadows are dark. We give thanks for your rays, and clouds your rays draw up, for the sky route you travel faithfully as we traverse this globe, for our journeys of earth which draw us together, for our journeys of dream which sustain us when apart. Ancient of days, you rule the nations, our birth and death, our journeys you have wrought. Loam we become for your fertile spirit, your cosmic light penetrates our depths. In your majesty, we are bound to one another. We gather this morning, as did people of old, with joys and woes, varied gifts, diverse needs. We offer you these in thanksgiving for life and share them through your generations on earth. These opening words are by the congregation of Braxis, a Unitarian Universalist order dedicated to exploring energy. This marks the solstice day of the year hemisphere. Herald of long days and hot nights, the solstice has been a spiritual for many cultures, and generations of people have stories and made meaning under the long shadow of the sun. This morning, we gather to name in our own way for our own circumstances. We encounter pain and turmoil in our individual lives and in the lives of our congregation. I believe looking at how we fit in the broader world and the lessons we can learn from it can help us recenter our lives. This perspective is what I hope to offer you through this service. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. My name is Birch Spick. Pronouns are they, them, and theirs. I'm speaking to you this morning as our congregation's celebrant team choir. This is a new role and a new time for all of us as we enter into the interim year. As your coordinator, my humble honor to ensure that we have Sunday services that inspire and change us the whole year through. This is a team effort, and we can't do it without a a team of celebrants. Can't do it without all of you in this congregation. This will be a unique and challenging year. We may surprise you. We may fall short of your expectations. And in all that we do, we ask your grace, your love, and above all, your support. If you have questions or concerns about services, or you have something you'd like to share, send an email at celebrants@ucsm.org. It's an honor to serve the community alongside all of you. As we begin this service, let's stop to acknowledge the Indigenous land we occupy, no matter where, how we gather. This building of this congregation stands in the traditional land of the Bahoje people, known also as the Iowa, who now live primarily in the states of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. It is also the homeland of the Meskwaki and Sauk peoples who still live in this state. When you hear a land acknowledgement, consider giving to an Indigenous cause, organization, or mutual aid project. Thank you for being here this morning.
Good morning. Take that up. My name is Louise Alcorn. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the celebrant for this morning's service. Whether you're here for an hour, for a lifetime, or somewhere in between, thank you for joining us in this community that grows ethically and spiritually, serves justly, and loves radically. Today, as I say, I'm your celebrant. Birch is your worship leader. And we also have the marvelous talents of Bruce Martin. Barb Martin is our song leader, despite what it says in your order of service. And we're also going to have the lovely, lovely Madeline Echternach to do a wonderful solo for us. So it's going to be a lovely morning. This service is being recorded and will be available to view later on the church's website and YouTube page. If you're joining us by Zoom, feel free to keep your cameras on, but please keep your mics muted in consideration of one another. If you're joining us in person, children and families of all ages are welcome to stay for the whole service. In the back of the auditorium is our We Worship space, which families may use if their children need to move about during the service. Thank you for taking a small portion of this long day to spend with us. Our gathering song is number 65, The Sweet June Days. If you're joining by Zoom, please keep your mics muted. You will find the words on the screen.
Of field and wood, we lift our
Each week, we celebrate that this community is an intergenerational one. We celebrate that no matter how old or young we are, we all have something to learn and grow in together. This time is our chapel for children of all ages. Today, we are talking about the summer solstice, but we're also talking about change. How many of you have heard someone say, the more things change, the more they stay the same? Maybe you've heard an adult in your life say something like this, or maybe somebody in a show or a movie. Sometimes when people say it, it's because they feel like the things they want to change never seem to, and they don't like the way that it makes them feel stuck. But for many people, change can be uncomfortable or scary. And I think we can turn this saying around to make change feel less scary. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That could be something we say when we need to remember that things aren't as new or scary as they seem at first. The summer solstice can be a good time for us to remember that. Now, if summer solstice is a new pair of words for you, all it means is the day when the sun is up the longest in the whole year. The days have been getting longer and longer all year, and here in a couple of days, they'll start to get shorter. It's been that way for billions of years, and will be that way for billions more to come. That's given plenty of people plenty of time to notice how the seasons change and how they stay the same. Many people who honor the earth and its cycles, like the pagan people in this congregation, find stories and lessons in the ways our world changes and stays the same each year. On the summer solstice, we know that the sun is up the longest, and from here to the end of the year, the days are going to get shorter and shorter. Thinking about that can make some people sad or upset, but we know that in another year, we will come back around to the longest day again. We can make the change to come feel more comfortable by remembering this. We know where we are going is someplace we've already been. This year, you might have had classes or teachers you didn't like very well. You might not be looking forward to doing math again next year, or English, or band, or gym. But next year, you might have lessons you like, or a new sport in gym, or a new teacher, and you might like that subject more than you did this year. But even if you don't, that's okay. You also know that the school year won't last forever, and at the end, it will be summer again. So when change feels scary or overwhelming, remember this. Remember to see what's the same. Thank you for listening to these words. We make our journey together in this community of meaning, fostering one another's growth through services, classes, and fellowship. So many of us pour our time and talent into our life together. This is possible also through financial giving. Our pledges and donations support the work of this congregation in nourishing our lives, and our Sunday donations support the work of nurturing our values. So in this offering, let us be grateful for all that we have and all that we can give. Half of the offering we give today goes to our congregation's social justice work, and half will be split between our two Faith in Action partners, Knock and Drop and Just Voices. For those of you joining us by Zoom, we encourage you to use the giving page on the church's website or mobile app, and you'll find that link posted in the chat. In the middle of this hour, in the middle of our lives, we make time for stillness. Let's enter into this time of meditation, thought, or prayer. To begin, set your body comfortably, stably. Rest your hands in your lap, at your sides, or however you can rest them without straining. Straighten your back as much as you can without straining. Close your eyes if that helps you find your center. Now clench your muscles. Start with your fingers and toes, then your arms and legs, then your shoulders, your neck, your jaw, your forehead. Now relax. Clench your muscles again and relax. Breathe in slowly, deep, down into your belly. Breathe out slowly. Breathe in, breathe out, deep and steady. We will meditate for 1 minute. In this congregation made distant by space, but connected by care for one another, we gather each Sunday to tend to one another's joys and concerns. Here in this space, we lift up the names of those people we hold in our minds and hearts, aloud or silently. If you are joining us by Zoom, carrying someone in joy or concern this morning, you may share that in the chat box. Let our hearts also be with all those near and far, with people the world over who are in need of care and who care for their communities, for people who work to meet the needs of the places they live, for those continuing to speak out against injustice, for frontline workers in healthcare and service industries, for families and communities grieving the loss of loved ones. May we bear witness to atrocities that flash before our eyes in quick succession. May we bear witness to the struggles to overcome which we have not yet seen. In the tradition of our congregation, we light 3 candles, one for the joys and concerns we have shared, one for the names we have raised up, and one for all that remains unspoken, but present here in our hearts. Gathered here together, we take a moment to honor these joys and sorrows.
Our first reading is Summer Solstice by the Reverend Lynn Unger. It's always felt a little strange to me that summer begins at the solstice, the longest day of the year. Shouldn't the longest day mark the middle of summer, the high point from which we begin the long slide toward winter? And yet from here the days get warmer, if not longer, the grass drier, the trees dustier. Our children have not yet begun to get bored with any luck, and with any luck, we are moving toward times of vacation and respite, not looking back on them. Somehow, the summer solstice manages to be both a beginning and a midpoint, the start of the line and the apex of the curve. But isn't that just the way of things? Don't beginnings, middles, and ends turn out to be far more muddled than we ever imagined? The loss of a job feels like the world is crashing to an end, but turns out to be the seed of a new career. The beginning of high school turns out to be the end of childhood. The middle part of our lives is already arriving when we feel like we're just starting to catch on to what it means to be married or a parent or a person with a career. And of course, the endings, middles, and beginnings all overlap. We become passionate about a new hobby at the same time that we are comfortably in the middle of a career path, or we welcome a new baby as a parent is coming to the end of their own life. Only in the calendar do we have the chance to neatly mark the seasons, to declare when exactly one thing starts and the other leaves off. In fact, what the calendar does is merely to assign names and numbers to the fact that change is part of the natural order. The seasons will move along in their predictable courses, but on any given day, the weather will probably be hotter or colder, calmer or stormier than you might have expected. Today, by the way, hotter. Making patterns is what we do in hindsight. Living is what we do in the moment, dealing with the elements of each day as it comes along. But the choices we make in each moment are what build the patterns, what allow us to look back and say, that was the summer of my life. The poet Marge Piercy writes, "We start where we find ourselves at this time and place, which is always the crossing of roads that began beyond the earth's curve, but whose destination we can now alter. May this summer solstice find you on a road toward your heart's desire."
Show me your child, the one that lives inside of you, that runs free and wild, that smiles and sings just as children do. I want to see the sunlight inside of your eyes. I want to hear the thoughts that you carry at night. I want to know the ways that we're all intertwined. Oh, come now, my darling, let's sit and watch the sun rise. Show me your change, the ways you've grown into yourself, your will and your strength, the chapters of life sitting on your shelf. I want to count the lines that crinkle your eyes. I want to hold the memories you hold in this life. 'Cause you may have changed, but God, that is just the same smile. Oh, come now, my darling, let's sit and watch the sun rise again. the sun steadies on and on and on, shining us on our way. Show me your light, the one that pours out from your heart, so sweet and so bright, that colors the world with your inner art. I want to see the sunlight inside of your eyes. I want to hear the thoughts that you carry at night. Oh, I want to know the ways that we're all intertwined. Oh, come now, my darling, let's sit and watch the sun rise.
Our second reading is Midsummer by Louise Gluck. How can I help you when you all want different things? Sunlight and shadow, moist darkness, dry heat. Listen to yourselves vying with one another. And you wonder why I despair of you. You think something could fuse you into a whole. The still air of high summer tangled with 1,000 voices, each calling out some need, some absolute, and in that name continually strangling each other in the open field. For what? For space and air? The privilege of being single in the eyes of heaven? You were not intended to be unique. You were my embodiment, all diversity. Not what you think you see searching the bright sky over the field, your incidental souls fixed like telescopes on some enlargement of yourselves. Why would I make you if I meant to limit myself to the ascendant sign, the star, the fire, the fury? Our centering hymn is number 27, I Am That Great and Fiery Force.
When our When our senior minister, Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw, announced their resignation a month ago, I felt for a moment like I had been thrown out of orbit. Their announcement seemed sudden, and I know I'm not the only one who felt thrown off track. But on a personal note, it seemed even more shaking as it coincided with the retirement of my first minister, a very dear friend and mentor who began his ministry in Ames 10 years ago. This cosmic alignment of sorts felt particularly shaking because I thought soon I might not have anyone I could look to as a minister. I went to bed that night and I tried sleeping. I woke up and I went to work that morning and I couldn't focus. But slowly, I found my way back to the orbital track I had been on. We are on the cusp of a year with a lot of changes in store. And yet something about this feels familiar. When I first started coming to this congregation 6 years ago, our previous senior minister was preparing to retire, setting us down the path of another interim ministry. These cycles of events are remarkably different in their circumstances, but remarkably similar also. Which seems to be how the passing of seasons go. Summer solstice, the longest point of the year, comes and goes every 365 days, but each day that it falls on is a different variation on a theme. And I think that makes a pretty good metaphor to guide us through the changes in the coming year. As an astronomical event that comes and goes each year, the regularity of the summer solstice can help reorient us in the face of disorder, sorrow, or conflict. The stories, metaphors, and analogies that we can draw out of this time, out of any time, can help us get back on our tracks and keep moving. While familiarity can feel comforting to some, there may be others who are dreading how familiar this feels. Over the last few weeks, I've heard people express dissatisfaction with the ministries we've had in the last few years. I've heard people worry that we might find the ministries to come equally dissatisfying. And this, I think, is the first lesson that the solstice can teach us. That time is, in fact, a spiral, not a circle. In the myth of the Wheel of the Year, which some Wiccans celebrate, the summer solstice is a stage for cosmic conflict. Here, the god of the waxing year, the Oak King, fights the god of the waning year, the Holly King. In this sacred story, the Holly King wins, tilting the world back away from its longest days, down the slow slope to midwinter. And then the Oak King will have his victory again, and the cosmic cycle will renew. This story seems to repeat itself year after year after year, changing about as little as the sun seems to change each solstice. However, writing about another festival on the Wheel of the Year, Laura Marjorie Miller observes that this isn't exactly true. In an article she wrote for the Elephant Journal in 2013, she observed that paganism being cyclic, the ancient cycle says the god will be restored, rather like he is just going away for a few months on vacation. I'm going to be a heterodox pagan here and say this is almost right. But instead of a circle, think of a spiral. The God who comes back is, but also is not, the same God. Just as the phoenix who rises out of the ashes is and is not the same phoenix. Just as Gandalf the White is and isn't any longer Gandalf the Gray. Just as the new year arrives in January and is not as the same as the old year. And just as the doctor, when he regenerates in Doctor Who, both is and is not the same Doctor. The sun crossing the northern part of our horizon is both the same sun that crossed a year ago and different. Its atoms another year older and closer to their eventual dissolution into other celestial bodies. The solstice is the same as last year's, yet different, with different weather, different world events, different people. Whatever new ministry our church engages in will be unquestionably different from whatever came before, no matter how similar it may feel or we may feel. Great astronomical events like this one help ground us in the cycles and passage of time. Amid unfamiliarity, they can center us and remind us of familiarity, making the certain, the uncertain, more bearable. These cycles of time can help us see the ebb and flow of life in other ways. As a spiral, a coil, we watch the arcs of time that we think are distinct overlap with each other. As Reverend Lynn Unger writes in our first reading, but isn't that just the way of things? The loss of a job feels like the world is crashing to an end, but turns out to be the seed of a new career. And of course, the endings, middles, and beginnings all overlap. Few events in our lives are truly as standalone or isolated as they seem in the moment. That's not to say that the pain or the grief or the apprehension we feel from this moment don't matter. Instead, it's to say that every event in our lives is connected to a multitude of other events. Some beginnings, some endings, and many, many middles. This moment can feel a little bit like the saying, one door opens and one door closes and another door opens. Except this door is a foot off the ground, sideways, and on the other side of the house. It's not necessarily what we wanted or where we wanted it to be. We're not even sure right now that we'll fit through. It's different and not where we expected it to be, but it is still a door, a way through, nevertheless. This moment can lead us to notice what else is around us, now that the big door we expected to go through isn't here anymore. Where are the other doors? Where are the windows? Where are our strengths here in this room? Here in this congregation? While we may grieve the departure of our senior minister, now is also the time to turn to and support the ministers that have been here the whole time. Perhaps now, more than ever before in the last year, we need to take this lesson wherever we can get it. Taking a step back from our present moment and reorienting ourselves in the larger cycles of time or congregational life can help us regain our equilibrium as a community. This grander perspective, I think, is the third lesson the solstice can teach us. In the heat of the moment, especially in the midst of great changes, we might find ourselves fixing our gaze rigidly on our own small arcs of the sky. I certainly think this is the kind of thing that Louise Gluck cautions her readers against in our second reading. We can readily comfort ourselves in a conviction that we alone have the answer our world needs. Some singular solution that could fuse us into a whole, some enlargement of ourselves, perhaps. But for what? To be single in the eyes of heaven? Again, it's not to say that our individual perspectives are without merit or value or impact, But it is to say that our individual appraisals of the situation are important, and that they exist alongside and intertwining with so many other individual appraisals of the same situation. Sharing community with one another asks us to recognize that our own needs and the needs of others simultaneously. To recognize that these can't exist outside the context of one another if we are really going to be this close together for this long. The solstice will come and go, and we will each make something slightly different of it. But if we are going to commit to being together for the long haul in this community, we can't get lost in the weeds of the slight differences in how we perceive things. So what do we make of this? Returning to my story in the beginning of the sermon, do you want to know what got me back into orbit? Being in community here in this place got me back into orbit. Meeting with the other members of the interim search committee and hearing their hopes and dreams for our congregation helped get me back on orbit. Realizing how much we minister to each other has helped ground me again. Each of us have unique gifts. Each of us have unique gifts and insights that we can bring to this community that can strengthen and grow it. There's not anything that uniquely qualifies the summer solstice to teach us this lesson. And yet, as the herald of our year's longest days, it's an obvious marker in time. And I also find it conveniently placed a week after our minister's last Sunday in the pulpit. Although our present moment is full of uncertainty, we can also find familiar contours in the spiraling arcs of time before. This new year is different from any other year, and yet, unsurprisingly, similar. As we move forward, let's remember that despite all our trepidations and anxieties, there is truly nothing new under the sun. Thank you for being here this morning.
Melting, burning, changing together in this hour we share together. Let the light of this chalice, though we extinguish it now, guide us to be together with one another in our wider lives. Our closing hymn is number 1028, The Fire of Commitment, in the Teal hymnal.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from free. When the fire of commitment sets our minds and souls
The solstice teaches us that darkness comes, that darkness goes. It teaches us that light comes, that light goes. The solstice teaches us calmly, silently, to be calm, silent, learning. The solstice teaches us as we circle the sun that everything flies. The solstice teaches us to remember the dark, remember the light, to remember time, the seasons, and love as we circle the sun. This service has ended, and our service in the wider world continues. Peace, amen, and so may it be. Because a religion which like sunshine
goes everywhere. The good heart is creed, all truth, its ritual works of love.
As a reminder, next week we will meet at 11:30 in Griffin Hall to stream the General Assembly Sunday service. Look for us then, and there we will not be meeting here in our usual place. Have a wonderful week.